Good afternoon. Welcome to the last session of this Business Day Spain-Portugal. We're talking about sustainable mobility. In the upcoming hour, we'll have 4 experts on Spain and Portugal telling us all about the possibilities for the Dutch entrepreneurs and what is going on in Spain and Portugal in the sustainability mobility field. We're talking about the electric mobility sector, of course, and the way to transform maybe some urban mobility and meet those green agenda goals that were set earlier last year, I should say. And we'll also talk with experts about the upcoming EU funds and the possibilities that will come up for everybody around those themes. Maybe this is your first webinar that you're watching today. In that case, a warm welcome to you. And if it's your third or maybe your fourth, also same warm welcome. But I would like to address that we have the possibility to view the webinars from earlier today, and you will have that possibility via email. So in the upcoming week, you will be sent an email with all the links of all the webinars, so you can take your time and view them on demand. So no worries if you missed them this morning. We have plenty of opportunity to do so in a later moment. So I would like to invite our guests for today. In the first half, we will start with the opportunities in Spain, and in the second half, we will talk about the opportunities in Portugal. But of course, there are lessons to be learned from both fields. So do not zoom out after the first half hour, or tune in after the first half hour, because you will miss out on those important business opportunities that go for everybody, I think. So our guests of today are Maria José Rayo del Olmo, Secretary General for Transport and Mobility at the Spanish Ministry of Transport, Mobility and the Urban Agenda. Welcome. I can see you're hearing and waving at the same time. Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to have the opportunity to participate in this online event about sustainable mobility on behalf of the Ministry of Transport, Mobility and Urban Agenda. And thank you very much to the organizers for the invitation.
Yes, of course. And we will talk together with you in a group discussion, well, a group of 3 in this case, with Robin de Jong, CEO of Eco-Scooting Delivery. Good to have you here as well.
It's a pleasure to be here and to discuss this super interesting and important topic.
Good. And in the second half of the webinar, we will talk to Peter IJzerman, Executive Director at Shazemo, and Miguel Pinto Luz, Deputy Mayor of Cascais Municipality. But those gentlemen will join us in about 25 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depends how this webinar goes and how many questions you at home have for our guests, because you have plenty of opportunity to ask those questions, submit them via the chat, and they will be sent through here to the studio. And we have some moderators answering them for you backstage behind the scenes as well. So make sure you ask everything you want and need to know. And we have some poll voting questions for you as well. So I would like to open the first one. Maybe you've been answering a few of them today, just so you know how it works. What is your primary reason to expand or set up your business to Spain and or Portugal? So we have 3 reasons to choose from: investment opportunities, network or work environment. And I can see that we have plenty more on the choosing field. That's a bit different from my script, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So I'll just read what your opportunities are: attend a fair, market research, find a partner, reach direct customers, establish a local presence. None of the above. Then you make me very curious what it is that you're here for. Please submit that via the chat. I still don't know. Maybe you know after this webinar. And none, also a possibility, which nobody's voting for so far. So we also have a second question for you. In the next 2 years, what sort of actions do you intend to take towards these markets? So we're looking for your future plans. What do you intend to do? Maybe establish some collaborations, some connections via the B2Match platform that we are on right now. So the choices you can do or make are attend a fair, market research, find a partner, reach direct customers. I'm saying that, but this is a different question I'm seeing right now. That's great. I'm just going to leave you to and have that question that you're seeing. In Portugal, how much is the market share for battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles in 2020? So I'm very curious for your answer. Is that 7%, 10%, 13%, 21%, or other? And I can see you're voting. So that was a false start, as we would say in Dutch. Hopefully we'll get better connected during this conversation. So I would like to ask Mrs. Rayo and Robin to join us for the first half and talk about the possibilities. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Our pleasure.
My pleasure too.
Pleasure to be here.
Mrs. Rayo, maybe we can start with you. You're the Secretary General for Transport and Mobility at the Spanish Ministry of Transport, Mobility and Urban Agenda. You must be extremely busy at the moment, I can imagine, because electrification of transport and mobility is the largest component of the recovery plan that your government submitted to Brussels last month, 13 billion euros to be exact. What are the main elements of that recovery plan?
Okay, well, as you may know, the recovery plan includes both reforms and investments. And regarding transport and mobility, we have introduced 3 main tools: 2 reforms, 1 investment plan. The 2 reforms are a new national mobility strategy, that is our vision, what are our expectations for the next 10 years. And we are working in the first national law about sustainable mobility. And as investment, we have designed an ambitious investment plan that will accelerate the green and digital transformation of our transport and mobility system. And these 13 billion euros are going to be invested in 4 main areas. 6.3 billion euros will be focused on the rail sector, including commuting services, trans-European corridors, and the upgrading of the rail network and freight terminals to increase the freight transport by rail. 3 billion euros will be dedicated to the creation of low-emission zones in urban areas and the green and digital transformation of the public transport. We have in Spain more than 150 municipalities that would be eligible to receive these funds to develop their own projects. And 2 billion euros will be focused on the promotion of electric mobility through subsidies for the acquisition of new electric vehicles and for the deployment of the charging infrastructure. And the rest of the amount are going to be subsidies to accelerate the digital and green transformation of transport providers, specifically the small and medium companies. These are the main figures about our plan.
Thank you so much. Robin, this must be music to your ears, because you are in customer-centric deliveries for the retail and the e-commerce with eco-scooting delivery. So could you explain maybe a bit more what it is that you do?
We have the vision to be the provider of choice for large e-commerce, retail, and also logistics players. And the way we differentiate ourselves is by saying that we will provide a customer-centric delivery experience. So what we see is that there's with the growing volume of e-commerce sales, everybody's buying online, right? Everybody's buying in Amazon, everybody's buying in AliExpress. If you have that many deliveries happening throughout each day, you know, my girlfriend, she orders 1 or 2 things every day at AliExpress. So you cannot organize your day around that, and you have to listen to the customer. And what they want is scheduled deliveries. But this creates an even bigger problem, because these volumes are going up. But then, if they have to be delivered in a certain time slot, the optimization of these routes goes down. Because you have to go crisscross cross-town to meet these time demands. So already last mile delivery, so the last step from the logistics hub to the door of the customer to make the delivery to the end customer, is already the most inefficient part, and it's becoming ever more efficient. So this is something that you need to address, and we do that with a fleet of eco vehicles, because otherwise it's becoming completely unsustainable, and we really welcome what the government is doing, because it's not always easy. We have, for instance, have to wait about 2 years to get an upgrade of the electrical capacity in one of our main hubs in Madrid. So it's good news that I hear.
Yes, and I can imagine you're meeting the wishes of the government as well to have that urban area more sustainable and more green.
Yes, no, absolutely, and it's the only way to go forward. But yeah, on the one hand, you have to do it in a green way, and green doesn't mean for us more expensive, because actually, if you have a high volume if you make a lot of kilometers a day, then electrical vehicles they are way more economic than gasoline-powered vehicles. But of course, also apart from it being a necessity, and it's also becoming an obligation. And also, therefore, I want to thank the government, because I think Spain is really ahead of other countries in that sense. Because in London you have the congestion tax, but here in Madrid, what they did with Madrid Central is really revolutionary, and also it's happening in other Spanish cities. So I think the right path has been chosen, and companies, want it or not, they will have to become more green.
Yes, because Mrs. Rayo, Spain has a very important car industry, the second biggest car producer after Germany, in fact. So what will the Spanish government need to do to speed up the transition to those electric vehicles?
Well, as you've said, the automotive sector, including all the value chain, represent about 10% of our GDP and 9% of our employment in Spain. It is without a doubt a strategic sector, and we think that we have the foundations to accelerate the transition to electric car production. On the one hand, we have a mature industrial ecosystem that is necessary. We have excellent infrastructures, and we have the mineral deposits as lithium, copper, or iron that are essentials in this process of transformation. In fact, the recovery plan has created the concept of PERTE, that are it means the strategic projects for economic recovery and transformation. And it is a concept that is close to the European concept of important projects of common European interest. And the first PERTE in Spain, it's going to be the electric and connected vehicle. And it wants to bring together investments from different agents aligned and with a good governance system for all the transformation of the electric car value. The designation of a PERTE will be carried out by the Council of Ministers, probably this next month of June. And after that, it will be launched the corresponding process to articulate the different public and partner participants, the partnerships, in the corresponding alliance for the deployment of the PERTE. We keep the objective of maintaining the current level of employment in this sector, and this will require a process of upskilling and reskilling of the workers and professionals, and even new profiles will be needed. We are preparing a plan in this sense about the training process. And in the case of hydrogen, that is nowadays a very well-known tendency, we have a specific national strategy that is not only for transport, it includes all the value chain of hydrogen, from its green production, storage, transportation, and all the possible uses. And among these uses, one of them is transport, specifically long-distance transport. This strategy, in addition to the 13 billion euros, it's going to have 1 billion euros extra to this amount.
Thank you so much. And Robin, you set up your company without any of the funds being available yet, and still you managed to make it a big success. Maybe you could share with our Dutch entrepreneurs what's the key success factor behind that success?
The key success factor behind our success basically is the ability to get into the super large e-commerce and retail players. So there's a few big names, and it's dominated by Chinese and by Americans. So we're thinking about Amazon, AliExpress. So you need these clients, and everybody wants into those clients. So you have to do things differently. And what in the end these companies want is happy customers, and happy customers. This means that you have to have a very high percentage of first attempt that succeed. So you have to come to the door when the people are home. So with our technology, we do that. And this is an important one, but I think in Spain and probably also in other markets, what they choose you for is price. And price is unfortunately, it shouldn't be, but it's one of the key criteria. And they're working with electric fleet really helps us, because we make a lot of kilometers. And as said, the operating cost of electric fleet is lower than operating the cost of fossil fueled fleet. And the obstacles that we saw there actually is that, we work a lot with motors, and we have to work therefore from inner city hubs, because the warehouses usually are outside of town. And with a motor you cannot, or with a scooter you cannot go out 30 kilometers to get all the merchandise and bulk deliver it. No, you have to do it in small batches. And here in Spain, what you see is that if you have to work from these inner city hubs that can really work with these smaller vehicles, that infrastructure is not completely ready. And so that is an obstacle that we have had to overcome. And it's something that is going fast, but still a lot of groundwork to do there.
How do you mean infrastructure is not quite ready?
The amount of potentia, or the kilowatts that are connected to the streets, it's not sufficient to, for instance, charge about 80 cargo scooters at once. So, the capacity, the electricity is there in industrial zones, but we're working with the smaller hubs that are inside the city. There's not this access to the right amount of electricity. And I think that Peter, in the next session, will go into this, that they have intelligent charging solutions, but if you work with big volumes and therefore you need a big fleet, then the availability of sufficient capacity of electricity is important.
Yes, of course. Mrs. Rayo, that sounds like there are some opportunities for Dutch entrepreneurs there as well.
Yes, let me say something about the previous intervention, because we are aware that we have some challenges related to the charging infrastructure, specifically in cities, and the need of creation somehow these micro hubs in the center of the cities to allow a better distribution of the last mile delivery. And those lines, I mean, the implementation of new recharging points and the creation of micro hubs in a full-scale plan for all municipalities are two kind of projects that are going to be subsidized by the government with this recovery plan. I think it's going to be an important stream of money for municipalities that otherwise would have, difficulties to accede to that amount of investment. And we hope that it's going to be before and after. It's a quantitative change in the following 3 years after these investments. And related to your question, of course, we have an ecosystem very favorable to new entrepreneurs, new companies, and for the first time in Spain, we are going to have a a huge amount of investments thanks to the European funds. With a counter-cyclical effect, we are going to have the opportunity to accelerate the investments needed to really transform our economy, and we are doing things well for sure. And in this process, of course, we welcome all European companies, we welcome entrepreneurs, we welcome new ideas, new business models, and especially those that which could bring synergies in the fields that we could have more limited experience. We are convinced that the single European market is a key element for the economy, for the European Union, and it is also a tool for the national economies to be more competitive, and that can allow to adopt the best practices from abroad. And in this sense, well, all the new initiatives, new business ideas, new business models related or with a lot of components of digitalizations are going to have good markets in Spain, especially because I mean, an important part of the investments are going to be in charge of municipalities, and it's really a high market.
So there are many opportunities. I hope that the Dutch entrepreneurs watching right now are going to seize their chance to invest and to participate in those chances. But maybe looking back also a bit on the last COVID years, Spain and Portugal as well has showed some real resilience. We just talked about in the webinar about agriculture and horticulture, that they didn't take that much of a hit because food is always an essential product. But how do you secure further growth on sustainable mobility?
Well, I think this is a field that is transforming our economy completely. We are working in these three tools. We know for sure that this is going to be something that is not, to say something conjunctural, is something structural. We know that we need to change completely our system. And for the first time in Spain, I think that there is the political impulse and there is the social demand to afford that in a structural way and with a vision, a 10-year vision. And then we are going to focus a lot in all this process.
Yeah, so that consumer demand also impacts your business as well, Robin. So where do you see your business in 3 to 5 years from now?
In 3 to 5 years from now, I hope that the fleet that we have is 100% electric, because we also work with vans, and then we work with gas-powered vans. They're considered also here in Spain an eco-alternative, because it's about 80% less polluting than diesel-powered cars. So that's where I hope to be, 100% electric, but also with regard to how I would like to see consumer behavior changed. And this is something that might be bad for my company, but with this increasing growth in online sales and with the number of deliveries that have to be made, I hope that people more and more choose for drop-off pick up at postal offices, or pick up in a shop, or doing it with pick-up points. I know in the Netherlands that pick up in a supermarket in Albert Heijn for products of bol.com is very popular. I think this is what we should try to achieve, right? And I think the younger generation is already embracing this a bit more. And it's also very convenient, because they can pick up things at the moment that they want and the time slots that they want. And I think we should try to work to a future of a bit more collective responsibility.
Sounds good. And then you still need those packages delivered to those local shops. So you will always keep that traffic. And if we can make that sustainable, that will be the perfect combination.
Exactly.
So we actually have a short video of eco-scooting. So let's take a look at that first.
Same-day delivery is rapidly evolving as the new standard in logistics, making existing processes and systems made for overnight sorting and next-day distribution obsolete. In addition, retail, food retail, and e-commerce companies are having more and more difficulties to keep their clients happy. These clients expect being able to choose a specific delivery slot, to modify delivery address last moment, to have real-time tracking of their package. Eco-Scooting Play is the answer to these challenges. A system built for same-day delivery consisting of the driver app and the traffic management dashboard. Eco-Scooting Play is able to process large volumes of orders, manage pickup and delivery orders in as soon as 30 minutes for warm meals, allows you to configure alerts based on specific event triggers, with the ability to personalize texts in the alerts and choose message type for these notifications. Go now to saas.ecoscooting.com to request a demo or write us info@ecoscooting.com. Eco-Scooting Play for happy clients and happy drivers.
Happy drivers. That was a nice closing line. I would like to ask you for some final advice, maybe Mrs. Rayo first, for some advice for Dutch entrepreneurs. I cannot hear you yet.
Okay. Sorry. I couldn't find the mute button. Well, we are. My final state would be that we are in a decisive moment. We need to make the most of the opportunity that the European Next Gen Funds brings to us, to Spain as a country. The recovery plan is the most ambitious economic plan that in Spain in recent history, and we are going to do things well. Good projects, good governance, transparency, accountability, and we are open to European companies together with the Spanish ones to collaborate in this process, in this ambitious process. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time and your advice, of course. Robin, some final advice for Dutch entrepreneurs?
There's for everybody that wants to come to Spain and become an entrepreneur, it's not that difficult as you think, because there's a lot of Dutch entrepreneurs already in Spain. In Barcelona, there's a lot, but also in Madrid and other cities. And you know, these people, they connect to each other, and they have their own network of connections in Spain. So it's very easy to start. You know, once you know that there's easy access circles, the step becomes because it can seem like a mountain going to another country, but in the end, it's as simple as moving within a country. So don't worry about making that step.
Yeah, so talk to your network, pick up the phone, and have a chat. Well, thank you so much, Robin de Jong and Mrs. Rayo, for your time and your expertise here today. And we'll switch to our Portugal panel for now. But I would like to have the answers of your first poll voting questions. Let me take them up onto the screen to see what you are looking for. And hopefully we could have already answered some of those for you. Most of you are here to establish a local presence, or that's your opportunity that you're going to take for the next 2 years, establish a local presence. That sounds good, because being local is an important topic, as spoken about before. And let me take a look. The other runner-up was find a partner. So a lot of people are looking for that network and hoping to establish a partner in the upcoming 2 years. Hopefully the B2Match platform can help you with that as we speak. So that would be good. And I can see Peter IJzerman is joining us already, Executive Director of Shazemo. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much to be here.
So Miguel Pinto Luz, our Deputy Mayor of Cascais, will be joining in a little later. So let's start by maybe, could you tell our entrepreneurs a bit more about Shazemo? What is it that you do?
Shazemo was really created to answer an issue that we had in general, basically, which was already mentioned, which is to provide an infrastructure that allows to charge all vehicles, electric vehicles, without creating any problems in the current infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure, which was obviously not created to sustain individual charging of electric vehicles. So we, some 10 years ago, we set up another startup which basically provided biodiesel. We created a biodiesel factory, and at that time we recognized that electric vehicles actually could become the next step here and actually take over the biodiesel business, which is what is happening, and rightfully so. So Chasmo was really created to study first. We spent 1 year to study what kind of solutions are there in the market to charge electric vehicles, and then choose a partner with whom we could deliver those solutions in the market. What we figured out was that in Europe, and this is statistics, it's a bit of a drag, but we only drive about 50 kilometers a day, average, and we have our cars parked during more than 95% of the time. So meaning when I go to the office in the morning, I park my car and I leave later in the afternoon, meaning that it's parked for like 8 hours. And then I go home and I do the same thing basically. So we have a lot of time to charge our vehicles with a little bit of power, because I only drove even less than 50 kilometers maybe. And that means that we need to create solutions that are intelligent and can use the existing infrastructure intelligently. So that's why we created Chasmo and work together with installing partners, so really engineering companies that install all these solutions throughout the country.
Yeah, so it's amazing to see how big the development has been in those 10 years since you started one business and then already knew that it might change into another, already taking that into account. So you have lots of experience when doing business in Portugal, starting a business from scratch and maybe relying on your network as well. Maybe you could give some useful advice for our entrepreneurs. How did you start? What were the necessary steps to be taking?
So Portugal is if I compare it to the Dutch or to the Spanish culture, it's a very different culture, and it is important to, and this is actually for any place that you go to, is to understand what that culture is about, because your success will depend on that, very much so. Ideally, one should learn the language, which is not an easy one, I must say. And I'm here for 20 years, so I had the time to learn it. You really need to try to understand the way things work. Portuguese have a different notion of time. It doesn't mean that their planning skills are less, they are just different if you compare it to the Dutch. So yeah, but you have to adapt. You really have to adapt. And if you want to go fast, then indeed, and that this was the reply that you found in your enquête, let's say, right now online, your polling online, is that people want to try to find a partner, and that is a good way to get into the market. Find a partner, which is not an easy thing. Find a partner because they already speak Portuguese, they are Portuguese, and so you can start quicker.
And so being a Dutch in Portugal doing business, what was your most surprising insight?
I found it very interesting to see that Portugal is a country that adopts to new technologies super quickly. It's amazing to see how many tech companies have an important presence in Portugal, and I'm talking about Google's, etc. And this is because the country is really like a little California, let's say, and Silicon Valley kind of country. The banking infrastructure, for instance, was way ahead. I'm talking about the cash machines, dispensers, way ahead. You can do anything with those. You can do anything with those machines. You can buy theater tickets, anything, do transfers, whatever. So the country is very adoptive to an early adopter to new technology. This is something that I noticed immediately when I arrived, and it continues to be so. So technically, in engineering, etc., very much advanced. If you look at BMW, for instance, most of the software in the cars of BMW is now developed here. There's endless numbers of examples of this. So yeah, that's the biggest surprise.
Good. And when do you have a Portuguese team as well?
Yes, we are 25, and we are all Portuguese actually.
All Portuguese.
The others are all.
I can't imagine.
Portuguese.
You're already counting yourself as a Portuguese as well.
After 20 years, yes, it becomes you adapt. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. So from a business perspective, looking forward maybe to the upcoming years, the green agenda, we have some targets we hope to make, of course. What's in there for your company? How is the growth looking?
Growth is going to be exponential, just like the growth of electric vehicle sales already is becoming. Right now, it's entering the curve, the very quick, fast growth curve, which will become more eccentric, even stronger in 2 years' time, more or less. That is when the electric vehicle is going to cost in buying as much as a combustion engine vehicle. And that is the moment that most people will choose the next car to be electric. So the growth, if we look at the necessities, and they are in the market, let's say that 90% of the vehicles that are bought will have a charger, and not a fast charger. Fast charging will be around 3 to 5% of the charging market, because it's not needed more. So long duration charging and intelligent charging will be the biggest chunk. And that means that for every car in the market, basically, there will be one charging point at least. This means in Portugal, we're talking about 4 million, 4.6 million charging points. And that is the stuff that we sell. And we only have an objective of 30,000 installations done and prepared by 2025 in Chazemo, in Portugal. Although we are actually also already coming to Spain, because we have requests from Spain as well. And I believe now, and I see the ambition of Spain, and which is a super interesting one. It sounds very solid. We'll do more there as well. But yes, there will be exponential growth. We need to grow our team, our capabilities. We need to learn. We need to provide more, a bigger variety of solutions, because there's no standard solution for charging. There's several kinds of charging solutions, and that's what we need to. Not only charging, by the way.
So yeah, I was going to say, who do you need to make that growth? What other companies could maybe complement on your work?
Yes, so a lot of development has to be done still, and this has to do with integration. So it's not just the charging unit that is necessary. We want to integrate it, and we need to integrate it with, for instance, solar photovoltaic power generation. We needed to integrate it with batteries that are that will keep the energy for when it's needed, so that we can manage better the existing infrastructure. This means software companies, very technical software companies, battery companies specialized in storage, in electricity storage. Those are companies that we will need, and of course companies that further develop, like Zaptec, with whom we work from Norway, the chargers themselves, because we're talking about not only about cars, we're talking about scooters like the ones from Echo Scooting from Robin. They need charging infrastructure as well. Boats, leisure boats. I'm a sailor, and I go out of the marine with my little boat. And right now I still use gasoline, but the next phase on that boat at least is going to be electric, and we need chargers for electric boats. So there's a lot of things that need to be developed. So engineering companies that do that, yes, please, go. We need those.
Good. Thank you so much for your answer. In the meantime, I get a note saying that Miguel cannot make it through the connection. So there's a bit of a technical discomfort over there. So we have a little bit more time, but I was wondering because Miguel Pinto Luz, our other guest who would be here today, is the Deputy Mayor of Cascais Municipality. You're already familiar with Cascais as well, right?
Yes, very much. My boat used to be there.
Nice. So a lot of castles over there, of course, and beautiful houses and greeneries and all those pretty things. But there is in Cascais, there's a publicly owned company called Cascais Proxima, and that was ensured to or established to ensure Cascais a better future, to make sure that it becomes more sustainable. Does that maybe cover some of your plans, or is there anything you can add or intertwine maybe with your company as well?
Yes, I think right now what is needed is an extended collaboration between companies and municipalities. It's essential that this happens because there is a lot of infrastructure that can be shared. It's just that it can only be done, and I'm talking, for instance, about the electrical grid, that can be better shared to electrify the municipality and all the transportation needs. We need then to collaborate very closely. This because software needs to be developed that can manage the distribution of the electricity in a correct way. So basically, not to blow up the grid and not have any problems. So collaboration is essential in this.
Yeah, because I can imagine to make the electrical network literally in the streets more sustainable or more durable, to increase that impact on energy. I can imagine that some of the people living in those beautiful villages are not really happy with having to open up their streets.
Yes. Yeah, probably it will have to happen in some streets, I guess, just like it happened for your very fast internet connection. So yes, I'm sorry, but that probably will have to happen. But once it's done, it will last for a very, very long time, because we're talking about copper. Maybe batteries will be there as well, because imagine at night you have the lights, right, the public lights on to light the streets, but during the day, generally speaking, you don't. But the infrastructure is there. The electric infrastructure is there. The cabling is already there. And with those cables, you can maybe load the batteries of those cars. So you don't need to do that much then. I do not know what is the impact really. There has to be done something. That's for sure. And yes, that we have to open up streets sometimes. That could be part of it. Yes.
Exactly. And most of the time, like many municipalities, they will do it as time progresses in a more natural way. So maybe when they were thinking about changing or maybe repairing the streets, take that into account.
Yes.
But who do you need for those moments to come together? Because I can imagine you giving a shout out right now to all municipalities in Portugal. Make sure to take that along when you make new plans. But is that the way it works?
I think that we need everybody, meaning we need the construction companies of cars. So the brands, basically, they need to work together with in this group, because we basically need to create cars that have their charging point of the car itself. So wherever the cable goes into the car in the right spot. And I can imagine a number of things that have to be developed on the car side. Then we have the cable itself. It seems a simple thing. And I think we could look at the cable itself, we could look at we need the people that develop the posts, the charging posts, really. We need the people that distribute the electricity, and we need the municipality that also has to take care of an integration of everything. Then we need the software builders, because there's another aspect here, and that is that cars have a big battery in general, and they can deliver their power to the grid. So because it becomes even more interesting, because those cars can store energy and they can give it back to the grid whenever needed. So there's a number of parties that, so in this case, energy buying and selling companies, trading companies that might be interested. So I'm easily thinking of 5 or 6 different entities that should work together to get this done.
So lots of possibilities there for Dutch entrepreneurs as well. So looking back at the past COVID years, which of the changes that were happening might be permanent ones on behavioral aspect, and how does that impact the Green Deal and the sustainable mobility goals? Lots of important words in one sentence.
I think so. There's some reports coming out now that actually the number of kilometers, we thought that the number of kilometers driven would go down because people are not driving to their offices, and now it seems in some cases in some cities that is actually not happening, and in some cases it's even increased because the patterns of driving around change. People do want to go to the same spaces where they would go to in the past. So we are not sure yet. What we notice is that, and we do a lot of business with very big building managers, so owners, investors in real estate that have really big office buildings in Lisbon, Porto, everywhere in Europe, in Portugal, and they, of course, they want to have their space full. What happens is that last year, at the end of the year, everybody was a bit worried, of course, because we didn't see any cars coming into the parking spots of the companies, simply because the workers were not going to their offices. What we see now is that the needs of the people are changing, in the sense that some of them will not come back to the office most of the time, once a week maybe. Others will maybe work forever at home. And so what we see is that the offices that are rented are actually the new ones. They are smaller units for the same companies. So they reduce their space. Others, they stay the same. And this is shifting at this moment. But what we do see is that all the office space is rented in Lisbon. It's being rented anyway. It's changing, but it's rented anyhow. The number of movements, the moment that the lockdown is dissipating, the moment that the virus goes on holidays, typically it does that from spring to October, and people are going back to their offices, and we see the traffic jams increasing again. Now, I was never, when I started working in the Netherlands, and this was a long time ago, I thought to myself, why are we putting ourselves all together in a traffic jam at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning? It doesn't seem a very intelligent thing to do. And maybe what happened now will wake us up and say, hey, our quality of life, and there's big companies in the United States where 60% of the workers say, I do not want to go at 9 o'clock or at 8 o'clock to the office. No, I prefer to work home. Maybe that now with this incident, let's say, will become the new norm. I don't know. But the number of movements, the necessity of people, the wanting to move themselves around, I do not think that will change that much. People will want to visit their friends that are in a different town, etc., and that will continue.
Yes, and of course, like you just said, the businesses might have a smaller footprint in offices, but then new businesses tag along and they'll fill up that space.
Yes.
So you just have different traffic, but maybe the same traffic at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I've got a question coming in from the chat. They would like some maybe some one-liner tips for new entrepreneurs just wanting to start their business in Portugal.
One-liner tips.
Yes.
Don't give up.
Does it feel that way sometimes?
It's always very. I can give one, and that is be curious, instead of being convinced that your way of doing things are the good ones in Portugal. Be curious about the way they do things here.
Yes, and we spoke about, and I remember that because, of course, we prepared this webinar because that's what we do. But one of the things you said during our previous talk, our preliminary meeting, was you need a different perspective to lead a Portuguese team. You said
yes.
that one of the things was not how do I want to be as a leader, but what do the people need me to be as a leader? Could you maybe give me an example of that?
Yes. The thing is that when I started to lead a team, I was not really fully aware of the differences in culture, and what was expected from me as a leader, and that created issues. Oh, not severe, but it was not easy in the beginning. Whilst in the Netherlands, when we are in a team, we as a leader, you ask, okay, what is your input? What can be your input on this matter? Because you're the specialist in this matter. What would you change to improve the processes? I'm just giving an example. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I did when I arrived. And from that session, from that meeting, nothing came out, nothing, zero. And I was surprised. I mean, in the Netherlands, it's a democratic decision almost on what change to implement, right? And the second session, nothing. I didn't understand. And so the distance, the leadership is the distance between the leader and the team is a bit different here, and so you need a different approach basically to get the trust of your team. It's different in every company because it depends really on who is on top of me, who was on top of me, and what kind of company culture there is. But the team was actually asking me to tell them, okay, we're going to do it this way. And then afterwards, what happens is that people start talking, yeah, but maybe you could do it a little bit like this or like that. And then things come out. It's not in a session together with the team. No, it's afterwards that people start, but maybe, and then it's not directly sometimes. Critics are not said directly to me. Mm-hmm. If somebody has a problem with me, then it's not always that they come directly to me. No, they go through a friend in the team that comes to me and said, Peter, maybe you could do that a little bit different with Isabel because, and that's not Dutch. The Dutch say, if you have a problem with me, come to me directly.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
So it's more leadership through social interactions. Yes. And maybe giving an example and keeping in account that you might change it afterwards because people need a bit more time to maybe let it rest, think about it, and then have some additions to it.
Yes, totally.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Peter IJzerman, Executive Director of Shazemo. And I would like to, we're already at the end of this session, but you can also be reached via the B2Match platform. So make sure if you have any questions, feel free to contact each other there, because I think we can incorporate and network a lot this day. And I think we have been doing that during all the sessions this day. So I would like to thank Mrs. Maria José Rayo del Olmo, also the Secretary General for Transport and Mobility at the Spanish Ministry of Transport, Mobility and Urban Agenda, and of course, Robin de Jong, the CEO of Eco-Scooting Delivery. Thank you so much all for your time. And as I said, the B2Match platform, make sure to take full advantage of that. There's also information about the Netherlands Enterprise, various instruments that can help you further along with doing business, some other relevant information, where to find the embassies, the consulates, all the contact details are on there, the NBSO as well. And of course, we would like to thank the embassies, but also the economic network for the preparation of all these webinars today. And on behalf of the Netherlands Enterprise Agency and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, thank you so much for your time. Make sure to use those on-demand links to view the webinars, send them through friends, family, contacts, anybody you think can be a big help of a good network contact for everybody around. And have a good day. Stay safe.